This video is about flow and how I perceive flow in my life, and what kind of benefits I feel that it brings me on a day-to-day basis. I will talk about what is it, how I perceive it, and how do you know that you are in flow, right? There is no script for today, no rehearsals, no me trying to be right on anything. It's just me sharing something that I believe is helping me a lot. So flow is a state of mind, first of all, in which you feel drawn into the activity that you are engaged in. And there are several elements that create this context for you to get in flow. First, the engagement cannot be too easy for you in terms of cognitive needs. It also should not be too hard so that you feel attention and you risk to be disengaged. There is a sweet spot in which the activity is challenging enough for you to want to complete it. At the same time, it's not easy enough for you to get bored by it, right? And I see this the most easily when I look at my son, who is 5, and he starts drawing or he starts playing with something. He gets drawn, and sometimes it's a bit challenging, and he gets upset, he gets mad, but then he's like pulled back into the activity, right? To the point of even crying sometimes slightly because of the accumulated frustration. For example, when he wants to create a puzzle or wants to solve some sort of an exercise, right? When he's doing things and he invested enough energy into the activity that he cannot just back off. He cannot complete it, but at the same time, he cannot just let it be. So it's this pull that you feel towards the activity that keeps you engaged in it. And there is something very special about this state, because this is a state of intense arousal in a way. It's a state in which you are very alert. You clearly are not bored, because if you would be bored, you would not have the energy and the need to be frustrated, or you will not care enough, right? So it's a state of intense alertness. Why is this important to know? Because this very state is the state in which we must be in order to learn something. If you think about your own learning experience and how you learn things in your life, and especially the situations when you learn something and you actually remembered what you learned, right? You will have to agree with me that those situations had you locked into the activity in terms of focus and alertness and attention, right? You were deeply involved with the object of learning, be it a new skill or just studying for an exam. You had to be engaged in it, because if you are just bored and you don't pay attention enough, you cannot retain things. At the extreme, you can imagine someone who is lethargic, almost sleeping. They can assist to whatever lecture or external stimuli. They will not remember anything because they are just not there. The other extreme, of course, is that you are too alert and too agitated that you cannot pay enough attention only to that specific thing, right? And everything captures your attention, and you are like, you have anxiety because of the alertness. That's the other extreme. So that's why flow is important, because flow captures your attention and keeps you engaged in that activity, and it's quite in the middle, slightly towards the alertness state, because you need to have that kind of chemical, let's say, bath in the brain so that the brain pays enough attention to what you're doing, so that you learn from it. And that's fascinating, because being in flow is ultimately the best state to be in for accelerated learning. And now you might ask, okay, but how can I learn something that I'm not interested by or interested in? Well, the obvious question would be to investigate, why do you really have to learn that? And if you have to learn it for whatever reason, but you are not interested in it, I think the best way to do it is to look at it from an angle where you actually get some sort of a positive reward from it, right? If, let's imagine you have to prepare for an exam and you don't care about the topic at all, just try to think how the training itself can help you, right? For example, it can be as simple as increasing your willpower, right? You being able to engage consistently for 3 days, 10 days, to learn something that you don't really like and enjoy, and you still do it, and you know that it's actually something temporary, you can imagine doing this because it will actually help you to develop willpower that you can then translate into doing in the future things which are also not necessarily to your liking. And there is a fine balance here, of course, because you can always go to the extreme of saying, I only do what I like, or to the other extreme of, I don't like anything in particular, so basically I have to do everything that comes to me with the same level of excitement. And this is where, your own intuition, your own needs and wants, your own values are important to you, because you have to develop this kind of discernment and trust your intuition. And if there is something that you don't want to learn, then understand first of all, why is that? And if you have valid reasons, then just don't do it. Do something else. Do something that doesn't require force. The goal here is not to force you to do something that you don't like. The goal is to be able to grow and learn a new skill using a technique that is proven to help you accelerate your learning, right? And the technique that is this flow state that is quite popular and everyone talks about it. And there is even a book, a very nice book on flow, written by Mihail Csikszentmihalyi. I think I pronounced that rightly. And it's fascinating. The science behind it is fascinating. So this is a tool and a method to actually be able to learn and become better at something that you want to become better at. Because if you don't, it's very difficult to sustain this kind of engagement. If you don't like something, you basically cannot sustain the kind of effort required for you to be great at some point. You can do it for a short period of time, but always contextualize it around something that you actually want to become better at, right? So again, the example with the willpower, for me, for example, another example in nutrition or like food related, long day fasts, like multiple day fasts, for example, not eat for 3 days and only drink water, and beverages which don't contain sugar. This example is also pointing into the same kind of benefits that you would get from doing something that you don't want. At some point in these 3 days, I have a lot of thoughts telling me, yeah, maybe it's stupid actually. So why don't you eat? Because you don't really get that many benefits in the end. And I know it's the case because, for example, there are no studies on humans to confirm the actual benefits health-wise for a 3 days fast. we know that multi-day fast improves autophagy, which is the intrinsic capability of a cell to regenerate itself and get rid of old tissue and so on. But we don't know if it's 3 days important, or 4 days, or 5 days, or 7 days, or 10 days. We don't know exactly, right? So I have thoughts like, yeah, but you don't know if this is doing any good. Why don't you wait to have studies on humans that confirm that a 3 days fast is actually useful in any way? But at the same time, I'm like, you know what? I just want to do it because I want to do it. I don't always have to have a good reason. I just want to do something hard against my natural biological instincts, and I override that instinct, right? And by doing that, I take control over my physiology in a way, and I get to improve my top to bottom control in terms of me overriding physiological stimuli which give me power and control over my life circumstances. Because after 3 days, I will then have developed enough willpower that I can transfer in similar life situations where I might not get what I want, and I should be okay with that. I should not have always my mood or my mental state dictated by how the world around me creates those life situations, right? I want always to be in control. I want always to be in control of my own state, not in control of how things unfold, because this is something I can never control, right? So flow is nice because it leads to a life of, I would say, constructive effort, of effortless effort. Flow does not ask of you to just sit on a couch and watch Netflix. You are not in flow. You are lethargic when you are doing that. But if you are engaged in effort which has meaning for you and purpose, and actually leads to results that you are proud of and make you feel good about yourself, irrespective of external validation from others, then you are in a good place, because you can selectively choose those activities that make you feel good about yourself and about the activity itself. And that gives you some sort of a reward, right? That actually makes your day, if you want. And you also get to grow from it, because if you put effort into something, it leads to results. And make sure that you reverse engineer the kind of activities that you care about having good results in, right? You want to become good at something where that thing requires effort, but for you is effortless in a way, right? You don't feel it. Like the activity as such is energizing you. It's generative. It gives you energy. It doesn't drain you, right? For example, like a very simple example, I occasionally facilitate trainings at work, and sometimes there is a 4 hours training, and I get more energy out of it, and I feel more energized at the end of a 4 hours training than I would be if I would just sit and wait for a train, for example, right? Or do something which I don't feel that it fuels me in any way. So the trick is, of course, to find something that is worth spending your time and energy on, and that's a challenging part. That's the most difficult thing to do. But once you do it, once you find something like that, you just give it more of your time, and you close the loop. You give it more of your time. You see how you feel about it. You see the outcome of it. Did you grow in an area that is actually meaningful to you or not? What are the implications of you allocating time and energy towards an area? You always have to self-assess and be truthful to yourself about your results and what you get out of your actions and effort, right? So this is it about flow, I guess. It's effortless, right? It's effortless effort. And you know it when you experience it. That's for sure. Everyone was in a state of flow. And even if we spend a lot of effort, we typically get out of it with at most some sort of a pleasant tiredness, right? We are potentially slightly tired, but it's like good. It's the good kind of fatigue. So I hope you will live in flow as much as possible, and I'd love to learn from your experience with flow, and if this is something that is easy for you to operate in this kind of state. All the best.